Thanks, Anne, for that introduction, and I too acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. Just put that up a bit. I too acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. And can I say thank you for the opportunity to have participated in the earlier part of the program today. I know Robert. I've known of Robert's work for many years, as well as Julie's. But it's great to hear from the others who've participated and to hear of the work of the support they receive from Family Planning New South Wales. Stella Young is a vivacious journalist with a love of dinosaurs and Melbourne nightlife. She edits the ABC's disability portal called Ramp Up. She uses a wheelchair. Her disability means that she often breaks bones, and her parents took her to hospital when she broke her leg whilst on a family holiday. Stella was about 4 years old. The doctor, whilst repairing the break, said to her parents, "Well, while she's under the anaesthetic, we may as well perform the hysterectomy now." Luckily for Stella, her parents refused. 2 colleagues of mine have intellectual disability. I met with their adult daughter recently, and she talked to me of their love and support as her parents, and how important it had been in her development. She also talked, with much sadness, of the story of one of her childhood friends, who also had intellectual disability, and whose child had been removed from her at birth because it was judged that this woman could not safely parent. And finally, I want to tell you my own story. I was waiting for a train at Central Station about 15 years ago. My wife and I both worked, and after the birth of our daughter, we had complicated childcare arrangements, which meant that we both took her to work with us several days a week. And on this day, she was with me, sitting on my shoulders in the backpack that I used to carry her in. A woman approached me and asked my name, and when I queried why she wanted to know, she said, "Well, I want to report you to the authorities, because people like you shouldn't have the custody of a little child like that." All of these stories illustrate the importance of the document being launched here today. I don't suggest that they all reflect general community attitudes, but they indicate a need for the rights of people with disabilities relating to marriage, family, parenthood and relationships to be reinforced and advanced. Family Planning New South Wales plays a key role in this area, and our community and is the obvious organisation to initiate such a document. Now, I've been honoured in the last decade, as Anne said, to be one of the Australians involved in the drafting of the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, the Disability Convention, which Australia ratified in 2008, or as I like to refer to it, the DISCO. Now, I call it the DISCO because it's a nice, easy acronym to remember, much easier than CRPD, which is the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. But it also conjures up for me images of people with disability moving into all parts of our community, even into discos. Although the colour of my hair would tell you that discos are not places that I've frequented for some time now. But I mention the disco because of the important underpinning that it provides for the lives of people with disability in Australia. And Jane and Rob have talked about that already this morning. Australia has ratified the DISCO, and all of our Commonwealth and state governments have committed, through the National Disability Strategy, to implement the DISCO. In the case of New South Wales, the government has also implemented its own plan in regard to strategies, I think called Better Together. And the document being launched today makes references to numerous parts of the DISCO. And you've already been through those articles, so I don't want to take you to all of them. There are only so many human rights moves that I can bust in any one speech. But let me dance you through Article 23, which is respect for home and the family. It has 5 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 provides that governments shall take effective and appropriate measures to eliminate discrimination against people with disabilities in the areas with which we are dealing. And the following things have to be ensured: the right of people with disabilities to marry and found a family on the basis that there is free and full consent. The right of people with disabilities to decide on the number and spacing of their children and receive age-appropriate information on reproductive education. The right of people with disabilities to retain their fertility. Paragraph 2 provides that governments shall ensure the rights and responsibilities of people with disabilities regarding guardianship, wardship, trusteeship and adoption. And the best interests of the child must be paramount, and appropriate assistance must be provided in the performance of child-rearing responsibilities. And Robert talked to us about that. Paragraph 3 provides that children with disabilities must have equal rights to family life. Early and comprehensive information and support must be provided to children with disabilities. Paragraph 4 provides that a child shall not be separated from their parents against their will, except where determined by competent authorities, which is legally reviewable, and in the best interests of the child. And the paragraph specifically says, in no case shall a child be separated from their parents on the basis of disability of the child or one or more of the parents. And paragraph 5 provides where the immediate family is unable to care for a child with disabilities, care should be provided in the wider family, that's the first option, or in the community in a family setting. All of these paragraphs outline critically important rights which Australia must progressively realise. They, and the strategies, plans and laws flowing from them, provide the foundation for change on which this document, this Family Planning New South Wales document, builds. All of them move us, that is, people with disabilities, further towards choice and control. Now, the document which we are here today to launch sets down the pathway which we should take towards that goal. To quote from the document, "The subject of sexuality is generally a silent, ignored and invisible aspect of the lives of people with disability. It's a subject that governments have largely failed to acknowledge, and in doing so make the necessary changes that ensure that people with disability have the opportunity to participate in loving, safe and fulfilling sexual relationships." So I congratulate Family Planning New South Wales for laying out this pathway. You've made specific commitments about what you will do in this area and laid out areas of action for Commonwealth and state governments to follow. The pathway is a clear one, and people with disabilities are at the centre of that journey, as the disco also requires. But the stories I told you at the beginning of my remarks stand in stark contrast, don't they, to the words written in this document, and the plans, strategies, laws and conventions underpinning the document. As do the stories we heard when the Australian Human Rights Commission hosted the recent symposium conducted by the Stop the Violence project, examining the issue of violence against women with disabilities. Now, some of you may have read the media coverage which that symposium received. But for those who did not, can I just draw one more story from the opinion piece that I wrote, published in the Sydney Morning Herald. And this is what the piece said. "Women with disability who live in institutions, boarding houses or group homes are often victims of violence and sexual abuse. This is particularly true of women with psychosocial disability or mental illness. Often cigarettes are used as currency, and a smoke for a poke is reported as a regular occurrence. But the comment which revolted and saddened me most was that of a woman who responded to the researcher, 'Are you talking about rape? I've been raped heaps of times. You just have to get used to it.' So, whilst I congratulate Family Planning New South Wales for developing this document, I have to say, and I know that you know this already, that the challenge is still before you, as it is still before governments and organisations of and organisations providing services to people with disabilities. That challenge is to make the strong words in the documents strong realities for people with disabilities, for our families and those particularly in the medical and related health professions providing services to us. Martin Luther King said these words. He said, "I have a dream that my children will grow up in a nation where they're not judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character." And if I can adopt that quote, I have my own dream that my children will grow up in a nation where they are not judged by their disability, but by the content of their character. Sadly, it's still a dream because we don't yet live in that nation. So I congratulate Family Planning New South Wales for the preparation and launch of this document and encourage you to work with me and others in the disability field to make that dream become a reality. Thanks for the chance to speak with you this morning.